Good morning. Quick reminder for everyone who's here. We are currently streaming live on YouTube. Just an FYI. Thank you.
If you need to do a quick microphone check, just let us know.
Is this okay? Okay.
Can you hear me? Great.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. For those of you just arriving, just a quick note that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. Thank you.
Steve, would you like to do a quick microphone check?
For those of you just arriving, welcome, and please know that we are currently streaming live on YouTube right now. Thank you.
Councilor Nanke, would you like to do a quick microphone check?
Would appreciate microphone checking myself because that's what I do.
Okay.
Welcome for everybody just arriving. Just a note that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson, would you like to do a quick microphone check?
7 years ago, our forefathers brought to this country a new land.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wright, would you like to do a microphone check?
Good morning. For our guests just arriving, just a note that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, it's a little past 7:30. Should we get started, Gretchen?
Certainly.
Gretchen and Tammy are the producers of today's event. I'm the master of ceremonies. A different role for me. Usually the mayor or council president are presiding officers. I'll do my best to keep us moving along and be respectful of everyone's time. I am honored to be kicking off this recognition event. We had bigger plans, a meal, more people, hugs and handshakes, but the disease had other plans. Many other events have been derailed by the virus, but this one really hurts. Virtual retirement events are a letdown, and we've had a few this week. But the retiree has been paid for her work. They will be paid through PERS. You guys, as you well know, are volunteers, and to be limited in what we can do to thank you really sucks. One of the top 3 questions Tammy and Linda hear when they answer the phones at the Civic Center are, city councilors are volunteers? Really? They'll usually go on to say that you couldn't pay me enough to be an elected official. And their shock and awe and admiration, usually, not always, but their admiration really grows as Tammy and Linda explain, yes, they're volunteers. No, they don't have an office. They don't have staff. They're doing this because of their love for the community, their desire to give back. So I really speak for the entire organization, and there are a few of your colleagues with us this morning. Thank you. But I speak for the entire organization when I say thank you. Local government only works when the council is made up of dedicated, caring, ethical individuals who want to make a dent in the problems and opportunities facing us. So the staff really appreciate the time you spend learning, listening, deciding, advocating, and representing the residents of your wards. I know you made a dent. With that, I am going to turn over the next part of our event to Council President Toy.
Thank you, Steve, and good morning, everybody. It's such an odd way to come together here, but in 2020, this is how we do it to honor our colleagues. And like Steve said, you know, being a city councilor is a special calling, and it takes a lot of sacrifice. I mean, just for instance, this 7:30 a.m. meeting, I'm not sure who scheduled that, but that's taking time away from a lot of families, you know, just to be here. But it's such an important event to honor those who have worked so hard for the residents and visitors and business people here in Salem. And I have the privilege of first recognizing Councilor Kara Kaiser, who served the city of Salem for 4 years representing Ward 1. And while it's not the heart of Salem, it is close to it. It's the downtown ward. It's got a lot of unique challenges. And Kara represented that ward so well. And I just have to start with one little personal story about the first time I met Kara. She'll probably remember this. We met for coffee in the Governor's Cup just almost exactly 4 years ago. And I was there. My job was to get her endorsement in running in a special election for city council. I left the Governor's Cup without her endorsement. She said, no, not right now. I got to think about it. So that was and our relationship pretty much has been that way ever since. Kind of Kara reminding me that, like, look, hey, Betty. Yeah. Anyway, so that's how we started our relationship. But it's been such a profound and enriching relationship for me personally and on the council. And I have really appreciated her insight on land use issues that I don't even have a clue about sometimes. She has a whole next level of understanding, and I'm really going to miss that. And I'm going to miss her camaraderie and her friendship. And so it is with great honor that we're recognizing Kara today with this plaque that Tammy is about to virtually show. And I will virtually present to her for her 4 years as a city councilor for Ward 1 in the city of Salem. Thank you, Kara. My note says we're supposed to see the plaque.
I'm sorry, we might have to pause on that for just a moment. I'll try to see if I can make that happen. One moment.
We might have a phone call or an early resident in looking for help.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, I see her square there is empty.
It looks to me like Chuck is looking for
There's
it
the
because
mayor
he
looking
cut off
for it.
his video.
Welcome to 2020, everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody has a dog that's going to bark right now or a kid that's going to pop in. That would be perfect.
Coming back with it. He was in the city manager's meeting room, and now he'll be showing up in his office in just a second.
Linda, we're at the moment where we're pausing to be able to see the plaque. I'm hoping that that's what Mayor
There it is.
Bennett and Tammy are doing.
The mayor has it down there. If you look down there.
Oh, very good.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for pinch hitting. There we go.
Hey. Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Well earned, Kara. You've done a tremendous job having represented that ward as well for 9 years. It's just been an honor to watch you do it, and really a joy. It's those neighborhoods have been really well served by your presence, and I hope when you move back to Salem, you'll do this again. But in the meantime, I know Silverton always needs help. So
I've been
looking for that public
more than
moment.
one person already. I'm not jumping in anytime soon.
Oh, come on.
Does anybody else have any comments they would like to make for Kara?
Yeah, sure, Councilor Hoy. I'd like to say a few things. Kara, I was asked to represent the department heads here and trying to share a few words here about the great work that you've done as a council member here for Salem. And it's going to be a bit selfish for me because really I can't speak to all of the other council or all the other department heads, but I know that you have had a tremendous role in really steering the decisions and giving us the guidance that we need when it comes to land use, historic preservation, or of course, all of the various community development needs of your ward. You have a very unique ward that you have served for many years here. And in that ward, we see everything from the pressures of urbanization to the continual challenges of property maintenance to, I even remember a case not too long ago regarding runaway nutria. And I don't know how nutria got into that part of town, but for some reason it was a real need that we had to handle. And you, among many other council members, were always quick to go from the point of hearing that need from a constituent to connecting with us as quickly as possible to get that need addressed. And you did so with such great understanding of what we can and cannot do, whether it be on land use or again on these code concerns. And I think that really starts with your eagerness to understand just what the problem would be, as well as, again, the tools that we had to address it. I was talking to Brady about his time working with you, and he remembered and was greatly impressed by your eagerness from the very start of your time as a council member to want to go on ride-alongs with both him as well as other members of the staff to understand what we do and how, since community development can be a very involved part of your experience as a council member. So your willingness to do that, as well as to also really come into every land use case or historic preservation issue or urban development style of concern regarding our land use code, was greatly appreciated. And if I could say one thing, this is again a little bit more general to all the ways in which we worked with you, but I really appreciated the way that you would go into every single land use decision, every single text amendment policy proposal that we had, and you would look at, first of all, the findings of a staff report and really give good, clear, gain good, clear understanding of what those findings were. More importantly, you would see what the request would be, which is very hard to remember sometimes when we're dealing with a regional shopping center, but in fact, you're only dealing with a site plan or with a short-term rental request in a historic neighborhood that is really pretty narrow in its scope, even though it can have many broad implications for a community. You would be able to go into those particular cases, or again, anything regarding historic preservation, where a big decision had to be made, and you would be able to very clearly articulate, in ways better than my own staff can sometimes, the abilities that we had in the moment, the criteria that we had to use to make a decision, and the findings that we could use to support that. And it is rare, I think, to find council members who can easily grasp those things and, more importantly, communicate it as clearly as you could. And so it was always greatly appreciated because, frankly, there were many, many times in those cases that you would make our jobs easier. And we're there to do that for you. So thank you very much, Councilor Kaiser. It's been a real pleasure working with you. We're going to miss your emails. We were going to miss really, and I think our residents are going to miss the responsiveness that you would show. It is incredible to see the timestamp on some of these constituent concerns that would show it coming into your inbox at, say, 7:51 and come to our inbox at 7:55. You would be so responsive in ways that were just always so impressive, and we were very fortunate to have you as a council member. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Norm. And I think I saw Councilor Anderson's hand up.
Thank you very much. This is obviously, of course, bittersweet, but I'll have to tell you that Kara sat next to me. Ward 1 and Ward 2 are together, and I'll say something about Councilor Nanke when it comes to that sitting next to me too. And we have a lot of what a lawyer would call sidebar conversation. Beginning sidebar conversation were a little bit about me saying, okay, this is what's happening now, here's what's next, sort of helping clue her in onto what's going on the council. And that very quickly changed. Basically, she knew what was going on, and sometimes she would have to tell me what was going on. And also, we both have a sense of humor that sometimes can be a little quirky, and sometimes we would share things back and forth that it's like when the teacher catches you and says, what's that note, you're passing back and forth, and we would share things back and forth that we probably wouldn't want the rest of the council or the public to hear, but it was a way to ease the pressure a little. The other two things I want to talk about with Kara, other than become a good friend over the years of meeting, not just in the meetings, but she and I would often have meetings outside the council, other councilors, looking at one in particular over there, council president, and we would discuss things, and it was always very good to get her view on things. And I will tell you, as a councilor, you have two duties. One is to represent your particular ward, and the other is to represent the city as a whole. Kara did a terrific job on that, starting with a ward that is could be viewed as problematic by some, because it's probably the most diverse type of ward of the wards we have in the city. Single family residential, and the downtown area, and the area across the river in West Salem, some commercial and other. That's just a rather unique ward. Example I can think is one issue, which was a historic preservation issue, and it was my ward. It was on Gaiety Hill. So I was pushing hard for the interests of my ward. This is what I want to do to benefit the narrower scope of interest of the people who are in my ward. Kara voted on the other side of this, and she did because she looked at it as from the broader perspective of what do we do with the whole city? How does this fit in with the city's plans? I thought that was very good exercise of her representing the entire city. I also think that, Kara, you are very, very good at listening to all the information and then advising and then coming to a conclusion that looked at the bigger picture. The final thing I want to say is I noticed that Eric's here, and I have to tell you, folks, spouse of a city councilor makes in different sacrifices, but in some cases, I would say they're more difficult because the city councilor is there in the middle of the action. The city councilor is making things happen and involved in whatever's going on, and the spouse, and of course I'm speaking from experience with my spouse, the spouse just hears what the councilor filters down to them, or the spouse is doing whatever else they do without the companionship of the councilor spouse. And so that's part of the hard burden of being a councilor. So I want to say, I know, Kara, that you will miss the council, but also, Eric, I think you will miss the council in a different way. So Congratulations to both of you, and good luck in your future life.
Thanks, Tom. And I think I see Kristen Rutherford's hand up. Kristen, you're on mute.
Yes. I know Norm was selected to represent the department heads here. I wanted to just add some additional thanks, Kara. With the downtown being in your ward, you and I had a lot of interaction, and probably more interaction than I've had with some other counselors, because we've served on the homeless task force together. And they're just, downtowns are unique, and they present a lot of I think some unique situations between the parking districts and the urban renewal area that have brought us together very frequently. And I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for your support as a staff person. I have always felt supported by you as we have worked through these issues. And I have always appreciated your counsel and your insight and the way that you have approached these issues. So I wish you all the best, and thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Anybody else? City Manager.
I've already, Kara, given the Silverton City Manager the heads up that she's gaining a tremendous person in her community, and to please call on you immediately for help and expertise, because I'm going to start a pool. I don't know if there's any other gamblers among the crowd, but there's a football bet, the over/under, basketball, other games, and the over/under, I think, for you returning to public service, Eric, I don't know, under a year. No, Silverton's gain is certainly Salem's loss.
I can see here on this year's budget committee in Silverton. I'm just saying. Anybody else? Krishna, yes.
Yeah, Councilor Kaiser, I have always been impressed and thankful for the great interest and knowledge you have in technology, and especially GIS. And I really enjoyed our conversations about how to take the city forward with the technology. And I thank you for all your work that you have done for the city and the support that you have provided us. So thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Lewis.
Yeah, Kara, just a personal note. I can remember about a month ago, I think it was, I had a voice message from you to ask me to call you. And I mentioned to my wife, Kara Kaiser wants me to call her. And my wife goes, maybe she's changed her mind on the bridge. I actually thought you were calling about Marine Drive, but you were calling about your impending move to Silverton, and how excited you were to move into a historic home, I believe. And then another call came a little bit later saying, there needs to be a little bit hold off on the announcement, house buying goes, and I do. But I want to personally thank you for all of your efforts. We of course did not agree on a lot of issues, but it's important for me to be able to ask somebody how they feel and get that response honestly and openly, and that's what you did. So thank you very much for your help, and thank you for your service.
Anybody else? Councilor Nanke.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Kara, and thanks, Eric, for sharing Kara with us for the last 4 years. It is tough, and the job of a spouse is often, underappreciated by the general public, because there is a ton of time when we're out doing things, and the family really sacrifices a lot as well. But the family also helps us through it a lot, because there's a lot of stress depending on the decision to be made up in front of us. And following, a lot of the other comments, you always came with a good knowledge of what was on the floor, a good perspective, especially in the land use issues, because that's tough for a lot of counselors to make that separation between the decision that's actually on the floor versus, some of the sideways directions that a development could take after a decision that we can't really think about during that particular decision that's up in front of us. So having Ward 3 be downtown when I first started, really appreciate the situation down there and the difficulty as well, because it was that way 20 years ago, and it's a work in progress. And so that'll be tough for incoming Councilor Stapleton as well. So thank you for all your service. Much appreciated, and good luck in your new city.
Thanks, Brad. Anybody else? All right. It doesn't say here that I'm supposed to turn it over to Kara at all, so I'm not going to.
Looks like Tammy has her.
Oh, does she? Tammy. Hello.
Hello. So Councilor Kaiser, I guess I can technically call you Kara now. So we in the city manager's office will absolutely miss you. Through the years, we get attached to some of our counselors and some not so much, but you were definitely one we got attached to. And so thank you for your service. Thank you for your friendship and your conversations through the years. We will miss you.
Yes. Bravo. Thank you for your service.
Well, I'm gonna jump in anyways, Councilor Hoy. Thank you so much. It's it can be hard to hear nice things about yourself sometimes. And I don't think as volunteers, counselors, we necessarily get that chance a whole lot. We're mostly on the other end of things and hearing some difficult things from folks. So this experience has been, I think, extremely unique. Most people never, ever get a chance like this. And you learn so much about your community. You learn so much about yourself as well, and how to work with people from all different backgrounds and political perspectives. Something that I've talked with a few of you about that I feel very deeply about is Salem is, and this council is very representative of what our democracy really is meant to be, which is we can work together even if we have completely different political interests in what we're doing. One of the things that I think was really detrimental to the council, through no fault of our own, but through the fault of the pandemic, is we used to have dinner together before council meetings. And when I share this story with people, they're like amazed, because I think there's a perception that councilors are just at each other's throats all the time, because that's what we see nationally and even at the state level. And when I say, yeah, we have, Jim, Councilor Lewis, who, we disagree a lot, but, I know about Jim's family and his former career and the vacation travels he would do. And we just get a chance to talk as not counselors, but just as people and community members. And that was really, really important to me, that we got to see each other in a different way and not just behind a council desk making decisions. And I hope that eventually the council can get back to some sense of that. And I know we have to be safe, but that right there is a very good perception or idea of what the council should be. And I hope that Salem can continue to do that. But thank you. I won't take a whole lot of time, but I really appreciate all of this. And it's been quite the experience. And I think you're all in really good hands with Councilor Stapleton coming on. And I certainly will miss aspects of it. And then I certainly won't miss others for sure. But I'm still in public service, and Steve and others who have mentioned it. Yeah, I don't see myself being completely out. So I don't know. I'm already looking at the city of Silverton like, oh, they got openings for things.
I called it.
But then Eric might, persuade me otherwise, at least for a little bit. So, but thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Kara. And now it is my pleasure to recognize Councilor Ossick, but I do not see him on our list. Is he here?
I'm afraid, although he's unable to join us, we do still want to recognize him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I would just say, like Tom mentioned earlier, sitting next to somebody, you get a lot of chance, a little extra bonus time with people to get to know them. And I was the only person to sit next to Matt since he was on the end. And so I got to know Matt probably better than most people on council, because we would often talk back and forth about different issues, and I would get an insight into what was going on in his mind. And I have to tell you, there's a lot going on in his mind. He was always like 10 steps ahead of me on issues. And, with Matt, I know he didn't often speak a lot on council, but I always knew when he did, I needed to be paying attention and be listening, because he had some real insights into things that I wouldn't even have conceived of, because he is at his heart an analyst. And that is a really amazing attribute when you're going through all of the different reading materials that we have to do every 2 weeks. And Matt was very skilled at that. And I am going to miss his insight and his friendship and his camaraderie. And he served the residents of Ward 5 in North Salem for 4 years. And I really thank him and honor him for his service. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything about Matt? Tom, yeah.
I sat across from Matt, so all we could do was exchange significant looks and glances every once in a while in the meeting. But I do want to say that his intelligence was pretty clear in everything he looked at. And right, he didn't talk much, but he would call me sometimes to talk, and then he'd talk a lot, and it was just amazing to me. He was one-on-one situations. He was very communicative. He could get to the heart of various issues, and it was clear Matt had looked at and read all the material, and then he could say, let's talk about this particular aspect of it that was buried someplace deep in the staff report. I like that, because I find those things too, and so he went right to the heart of matter, and he could distill it down to what he thought the issues were, and he usually was right. Whether or not he was on the same side of the issue, that's a different question, but he could go to the issue. I also had a chance to know him and Katrina a little bit outside of various things, and I will always remember one memorable trip that Jessica and I and Matt and Katrina, Oktoberfest. That was quite an adventure, and a good time was had by all. Let's just say. I'm going to miss Councilor Osick.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else? Gretchen Bennett.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to recognize consistent conversations that we'd had over Councilor Osick's tenure around diversity and equity and inclusion. We were consistently touching base about representation and hearing all of the voices in our community. And I appreciated his ideas and counsel and work in that area. There was one time where we had a person who was appointed to the Community Police Review Board, which is one of the boards that I have the opportunity to staff. And it was a person who represented a cultural community. We hadn't had the opportunity to work with very many people in this community, and we were really excited. And long story short, Councilor Osick was very gracious to join me in a signing of his oath to serve on the board in a very ceremonial way, where we had the opportunity to meet this board member's family and have some really good conversation. And I'll just always appreciate that extra time that Councilor Osick took to assist with welcoming this person onto the Community Police Review Board. So I just wanted to share that and let Councilor Osick know we'll sure miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. And Mr. Mayor, would you like to virtually present his plaque?
Yes. Thank you, Councilor. Yes, this is our plaque for Councilor Hoy, excuse me, Councilor Osick. And just to express my personal appreciation to the councilor for his work on the council, for his advice. I found every time he spoke, it was always very interesting. It was well thought, and in many cases, very persuasive. So I think having that kind of representation for the northern part of our city was extremely important, and Matt did a good job of bringing those issues to the table. So here's the key to the city. And if you'd have given us a couple more years, we'd have shown you where the lock is. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And with that, I think that concludes my portion of the program. I will turn it back to you, Mayor Bennett.
Well, thank you very much. This is just a real pleasure for me to be the person selected to honor my friend and a longtime colleague, Brad Nanke. 20 years of service on the city council. I don't know if it's a historic record. I think it is. If it isn't, it's one of those guys with long beards on the wall who lasted that long. That's a really unusual level of service. He has dedicated time, talents, and wisdom to the city of Salem as an elected official. He's a valued volunteer in numerous other capacities. He's donated, and really this is where it gets difficult. He has donated countless hours of his time to our community. I can't even begin to do the mathematics involved, but Nanke can. He can do this stuff in his head. But the amount of time he has spent, few of us can aspire to give that level of service to our community. He has been a role model for all of us, I think, as we've served with him on the city council, as well as in the community. During Brad's tenure as city councilor, he's placed his sense of duty, pragmatic and consistent approach to local policy making. And he really has an openness to others' points of view. I found it, I think sometimes people try to guess how other people are thinking or how they'll vote. And I'll tell you what, it's a guess. And I think we all know that. It's one of the things we've learned about each other. You can think you know where someone's going, and then you find out, no, that's really not how this works. And I think it's one of the real pleasures of working with Brad. He made pragmatic contributions to the council, and that kind of pragmatism makes this organization stronger. And it also adds a substantial amount of just concrete solidness to our community to have someone of that kind of, with that kind of thinking. Brad lives the spirit of service in his day-to-day commitment to our community. He serves as a really, really dedicated community emergency response team member and volunteer. And I have looked a couple of times myself at being a CERT volunteer. I don't think there's enough hours in the day to do city council, CERT, and the other things we'll talk about with Brad, but he found it and he's been a tremendous leader for and in that program. If the big one hits, we'll name it after Nanke. He'll be there to help us, I think, in this thing. Brad also volunteers on Salem Area's Public Access Television Board, the Mid-Willamette Valley Cable Regulatory Commission. As the City of Salem representative with the League of Oregon Cities, he has served as the League's president, foundation board member, as well as on the Telecom and Broadband Committees, the Transportation Committee, and the Finance and Taxation Committee. Earlier this year, the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments awarded Brad the Gwen Vandenbush Regional Leadership Award for his outstanding leadership in regional and intergovernmental affairs. His contributions range from developing policy on regional and state importance to getting his hands dirty, pulling invasive plants from the North Sandiam River watershed. If there's something to be done, you'll often find Brad Nanke there to do it. Brad, personally, I wish you all the best as you enter a new life chapter. You can kind of take your eye off the city for a little while and do the other things you are so good at. Looking ahead, I can't help but think that we'll learn that your serving in our community in some form or fashion. I just can't believe I'm not going to see you in front of the boards and commissions looking for a volunteer opportunity. And I want to thank you again for your years of service, for your really good friendship. You are a joy, and I noticed that Denise is here, and I want to thank her for sharing you with us. I know there have been any number of times she would like to have had you home doing some work around the house or cooking one of your really outstanding dinners. So Denise, you'll get to eat the meal Brad's been wanting to make, I think, all these years. Again, Brad, thank you so much for all of your service. And just to show you what the plaque looks like, here's your key to the city. You do find with 20 years of service, you get the big key. And we're just so proud of you, Brad, and so thankful for the years we've all had the opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's our man.
So, Brad, if I may, I can't believe it, 20 years of working together and, 13 of those, sitting across from you at the council chamber. It's been fantastic. I was thinking about this a little bit, and you really, I know you came into council really on the issue of 12th Street, which in the end, after so many years and after that hard fought issue, as I drive through that intersection, I see that in the end, we did the right thing, just the right turn lanes, and that was good enough. And the rest of it was just crap. And, one of my very few regrets is that we even fought that ridiculous battle and in the end just got exactly what we needed. But that's what brought you onto council. And that was really to our benefit. And I really saw you just develop into an outstanding counselor in terms of just really understanding the issues and the really complex issues. Really great at constituent follow-ups. I mean, I don't think there was a council meeting where I didn't hear my name sung out at the end as I'm trying to escape to say, oh, hey, I have something for you. Can you follow up on X, Y, or Z? So I always had homework after just about every council meeting for one of your constituents. You will obviously develop into an expert parliamentarian, perhaps to the chagrin of some of the mayors. But you keep the mayors always on track. One of the things that I really, really admire about you is how many times you voted for things that you clearly were opposed to, but it was for the good of the city. And it happened a lot where you had expressed your opposition, but boy, two people are out and your vote is needed for a grant, a budget, an issue that is legally sensitive, and there you were voting for it, even though you hated it. And I can't tell you how much I admire it, and I know the rest of the directors and past city managers admire and are grateful for you having done that on so many occasions for the good of the city and for the good of the community. Beyond that, being a member and then the chair of the Water Wastewater Task Force for me was gigantic. I really enjoyed the times we were able to go have a beer at a bar and go over the agendas, and it's too bad we couldn't do it this year, given the issue. But I appreciate your help. I got friends in Reservoir sitting behind me here, so almost in your honor. But I thank you for that. The mayor talked about a lot of your volunteer efforts. I want to also call out you volunteered at Fall Leaf Hall many years, and that's something that we sponsor. And you were out there, hefting bags with the for the community. So I really appreciated that. And then in closing, just on a personal level, I want to just appreciate you for your excellent singing. I think if people go on YouTube, you can still see videos of our concert, so many years ago, Brad doing a duet with Aaron Grimm and really rocking it. Want to say hi to your lovely family, Denise. It's great seeing you. I've known Denise for years. I enjoy being on the radio. with Denise. I think KYKN, they're really hard on public servants, but never for me. They were always nothing but great to me, and I really enjoy on the radio. And you can still invite me, Denise, anytime you want. And I see Ben is on, and the best cup of coffee I've ever had, Ben served it to me at Broadway Town Commons, and I still think about that and try and get over there as much as I can. So, Brad, thank you so much for your help to the city, for your help to the department, and for your friendship to me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to miss you.
Thanks, Peter.
I think it's open mic time now. So Councilor Anderson, then Dan, and Councilor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Steve. Brad, 20 years, I just can't imagine that. I mean, here I am, I'm rolling into 6 now, and it seems like I've almost always been on the council, and you've been there 3.5 times, my tenure. So you had great historical knowledge that was always very, very helpful. But I want to speak to the knowledge you had that was imparted to me. As I discussed with Councilor Kaiser, I sat between the two of you. So you were often very, very helpful to me, often on a historical or a procedural perspective. Somebody might be up at the microphone in the public sessions talking, and I would say, who's that person? And you would let me know, you would fill me in on from where they were coming in a particular issue. I particularly personally remember one of the times when I was my first year on the council, when I had a little contretemps with the mayor, and I think it was not the current mayor, the former mayor, and it was over streetlight fees. And streetlight fees and the 1 hour rule. And I had, I made some comment in the session, second or third time we had discussed this, and the mayor wasn't sure that I had ever said that, or I was coming from a different point of view. And you stood up for me figuratively and said, "Oh no, Madam Mayor, he said he was going to do this last week or the week before, the meeting before, and he's doing it now." So I appreciated that. I also will say that of all the counselors, you and I probably were on the opposite side more times of most issues, but we never let our political differences affect our personal relationship. I can think particularly of going to SEMCA neighborhood group meetings, which is a neighborhood group that we shared. And we would get up, and they were on Tuesday mornings, often after a council meeting when lots of things were going on. And you would get up and express your view of something that happened, and I would get up and express my view of something that happened. But each of us were always clear to tell those folks there that we had nothing but respect and admiration for the other person who was on the other side of issues. And that is something that I will carry with me from my relationship with you. And then I want to speak a little bit to Denise and Benjamin. Denise, I don't know if you were here earlier when I talked about the toll that this takes on spouses, and it's true. And you have suffered that for a long time, and now you've got him back. So thank you for sharing him with us. And then I want to talk to Benjamin, who looks like kind of like a mini me. Brad, if you would leave the mustache on, Ben, you'd be him. And I happen to have a son whose name is Benjamin too, and also looks like a mini me. So I can identify with that. And I don't know how old you are, but 20 years takes you a long time back. And so pretty much for much of your growing up, your dad was a counselor. You just knew that, and you shared him with people. And I know that has affected your worldview. And, so I think that he was a terrific example for you, as well as I'm sure being a terrific father. So thank you also for sharing him with us, and you'll get him back now. So I appreciate, Brad, all the service you've done and all the help you have been to me during the time I've been on the council. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, I think Dan, Jim, Councilor Hoy, and then Kristen.
Thank you, Steve. I wanted to also thank Matt and Kara, as well as Brad. I know from working with you the past several years that you care deeply about your community and your constituents, and I know the decisions can sometimes weigh very heavily personally on you, and it takes something out of you, and I appreciate your willingness to help the city and help your fellow citizens. For Brad, from my perspective as a city attorney, you've been such a huge assistance, not just the parliamentary stuff, but everything else. You keep us our keel righted, and I can think of many instances over the years where item 8 on our council agenda comes up, and there is someone who wants to testify. And maybe the subject is a little different than what we're normally listening to. Maybe the person wants to testify somewhat oddly. And you always show so much respect for everyone who comes before council that wants to take the time out of their day to come speak to us. And you're always willing to ask questions, and you're always willing to give them the respect when they come to council to speak. And I think that just exemplifies you as far as your concern for the citizens and concern for the city, as well as what Peter spoke to, and your ability to work together with other members of council and the city and do what's right for the city as your position as essentially a board of director for the entity, as well as community representative. So thanks to all the councilors, thanks to Matt and Kara for your service, and Brad, thank you so much. We're going to miss you all.
Well, I'll give just a quick comment, Brad. My fondest memory of you was within 2008 when we co-chaired the Streets and Bridges bond measure. And I'll always remember that morning sitting around the campaign table talking about the odds of this ballot measure passing at the beginning of what was the greatest recession we ever faced. So we decided to have fun with it. And we were sitting around that morning talking about a flyer that we were going to send out that had a toilet seat on it. And the message was, what do you need more than a toilet? Streets and bridges. So that's my fondest memory. I also want to thank Denise. You know what? After 20 years, Denise, you're looking great. Brad, you're looking okay. Thanks very much for all your service.
I would just like to share and just say thank you, Brad, for your guidance and your always bringing a great historical perspective to council. And, Tom referenced your kind of sidebars. And I just have to say, I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but we've always enjoyed your sidebars too, because neither one of you are quiet whisperers. So on the other side of the room, we're listening to your sidebars the whole time. And so, yeah, I've always enjoyed that. And anyway, thank you, Brad.
That's funny. And I just wanted to share my respect and my appreciation. You look at a community of around 170,000 folks, and there's a really small percentage of the people in the community that understand what you all do and the time that it takes and the impact that it has on your lives, and just the multitude of different issues that you address and personalities that you work with. And as a staff person, we see a lot of it. We don't see all of it, and when I then try to imagine what that cumulative impact is over 20 years of service, and that you do it with a song, you do it with a smile and a laugh and a joke. And there's so many opportunities over 20 years to become cynical and jaded and resentful. And that's not what you bring into the council chambers with you. That's not what you bring into the Civic Center with you. You bring service, and you bring that caring for the community. And to know that you have been doing this for this long and you continue to approach it the way that you do, I just respect that tremendously and have so much gratitude for that. And then, along with what some of the other counselors and staff have said too, as a newer director with the city and newer to Salem, I have learned so much from the historical perspective that you have shared. And I just want to thank you for that and everything I have learned from you. So thank you, Brad.
So Brad, I think I met you 20 something years ago in my living room when our sons were starting out in, I think it was Tiger Cubs. I think my son stopped and your son continued forward, but through the years, you have been a really steady influence on all of us. And we always know that you're coming because, as Peter and others have said, you lead with a song. So we always know when you're coming around the corner or through the door, and we appreciate that. My husband asked me to give you his take on you leaving. And he said from his perspective, he will really miss watching you during the budget season because he's always appreciated you saying, oh, you want to add that to the budget? Great. What are you going to cut? So from my husband, thank you for your many years of service, and we will miss you.
I'll jump in here also. Brad, it's been great to work with you. My first memory of meeting you is I think you came with some chicken eggs to give to the new counselors. And I was like, sweet, is he gonna do this every meeting? This is great, like 3 eggs. So I thought that was a really, really kind gesture and really set the tone too for working with you on the council. And it's interesting, I think others have kind of alluded to it, but you're always trying to figure out where people might be on the issues. And there are some things that I thought, yeah, I think Brad's going to go this way, and then you'd surprise me and go a different way. But I think it goes to show that we're all individuals and bring that unique perspective. And 20 years is an amazing length of service, especially in a volunteer role. And I know you care so deeply about our community, and just want to thank you for all of that and for your camaraderie on the council.
Brad, if I may, I want to thank you and really highlight the fact that you've been recognized not only here locally, but regionally through the COG and by the League of Oregon Cities, as the mayor mentioned, that prestigious award. And I want to thank you for representing the city in those areas at that level. The president of LOC is a tremendous honor, and to be representing the city, representing Salem statewide is really remarkable, considering the time it takes to be a counselor. And I also want to thank you and praise you for, as has been said, never taking yourself seriously. You took the job, the volunteer gig, extremely seriously. I know, having spent some time myself in local government, I know you've seen all of these issues, right? The details might be different, the circumstances might be different, but the issues tend to recycle, and you never lectured us. You never said, oh, I've been through this before, here's how we should do it. You always were so respectful, has been said, to your colleagues, to staff, and you held us, staff, accountable. As Dan mentioned, whether it was making sure we were allowing some grace to a constituent who was coming in to testify, who was probably intimidated by the setting. You made sure that person felt comfortable, and you held us accountable too in terms of process, to make sure that regardless of the outcome of a decision, that the process was consistent with code, was consistent with really making sure the public was being represented. And I really thank you for that, and how you held us accountable. It was, as it was said, you would start with a song and then say, hey, Steve, I need to talk to you about something. And I really appreciated that feedback and how you provided that feedback. You made us a better management team, and we're truly a partner, as has been mentioned, on so many specific issues, specific initiatives, whether it's a bond measure or a wastewater task force, and just in general, you made us a better city organization, and really contributed to that essential partnership between the governing body, city council, and the staff. So thank you, Brad.
Anybody else want to?
Yeah, a little bit of the odd person out, just as I guess my mother and I being non-staff and non-counselors, but Tom, okay, thanks. As Councilor Anderson said, yeah, I mean, I'm 28 years old, so I was 8 when my dad was elected to the city council. And even just looking at this room, there's actually another person that I want to bring a comment that they frequently made about my dad, and I'll get to that in just one second. But yeah, I've experienced public service from the perspective of a family member. Yeah, and definitely there are a lot of situations where my dad was not as, not as accessible, but as I was just reflecting on this, I actually feel like for whatever the standard operating costs of being a city councilor for 20 years, and I even speak directly to you, Dad, I feel like you had such a specific and intentional way of bringing me along in that process and getting me involved in city government, whether that was going and volunteering together at Englewood or going out and caring for people in the community, or I even think I think I got to guest council when I was 19, which probably was not I don't know. As I reflect on that, I think putting a 19-year-old in the city council seat maybe goes to their head a little bit more than it would be advisable. But just being able to participate in the city of Salem, I have an appreciation for water and soil boards and for a variety of different things for transportation and noticing these different infrastructure pieces and all these things in the city that I know I would not notice if you had not been on the council, especially for as long as you were. Yeah, and just such a profound respect. Tom, you're right. He's been a very good father and a very good counselor. And I think I've gained a love for this city that some people don't share because of the ways that I've seen you love this city. One of my dear friends who just would love this kind of event of recognizing counselors. He was born and raised in Syria and moved to the United States. His name is Mo. And he is he's a really awesome guy, one of my dear friends, and politically probably lands on a different spectrum than where my dad lands. But I've received multiple calls, sometimes out of nowhere, just saying, I just want you to tell your father how much I appreciate him standing on his principles, even when it's hard. We need more of that in city government, and we need more people who represent a broader spectrum of the population. And so he's had nothing but really, really glowing things to say about you. And I just love that picture of the city of Salem of a 20-something guy from Syria who comes in and is able to always engage in conversation with you and just walk away feeling so respected and heard and valued as a human being. So I think that speaks to maybe the off the council time side of just conversations with people. And I'm always so thankful as well for the ways that you've answered my random questions about city government whenever something doesn't make sense and what the heck is this thing? So I love you. And yeah, I think that this is a wholly appropriate recognition, even though it's on Zoom. So.
Great. Thanks, Ben. I remember you coming to council as a guest counselor. I still think you're the best guest counselor we've had ever. You were so well informed, asked such interesting questions. And I think I mentioned it to you at the time. I thought, and I know I did to your dad, just what a great job you did. So you really picked up on it. Look ahead. Look ahead, Ben.
It was that Statesman Journal issue when they were throwing them into bushes and then they were melting into the people's bushes.
Exactly.
So,
That's right. That's exactly right. Bless their hearts. They went digital or whatever they did.
Is that issue still on the agenda, Mayor?
It is if they ever bring those damn things back.
I don't think we ever got rid of it.
God.
Mayor, Councilor, President, I wanted to make sure we welcome Councilor Osick has arrived to the table.
Oh, great.
Make sure everyone sees.
Well, you missed all the nice stuff everyone had to say about you, Matt. but we've got a wonderful plaque. We just wanted to be sure, I think everyone, to thank you so much for your work, and then the level of discourse you brought, also the really thoughtful and insightful comments you made regularly. So Matt, if you have anything you'd like to say, please feel free.
Well, thank you. I'll just say I really appreciated the support of the other members and Mr. Mayor and all of the staff, and it was definitely a challenging and rewarding experience that I'm glad I was able to serve in this position. So, and I'm glad that I was able to join in Ward 5, and I think you will do a great job. So, so thanks.
Well, thank you, Matt, very much. Brad, did you want to?
Sure.
Reflect on 20 years, my
20
friend.
years. It's like I forgot about the eggs. But yeah, that was a new counselor welcoming gift. And just the sheer number of staff I've been through, and department heads and city managers, like 5, and that could be 10, depending on how many times we consider Bob Wells stepping back in as well. But yeah, it's the education a city councilor gets is something that, you know, most people in our community will never see. And I've taken up a seat for 20 years, and it's time to let other people learn that wonderful stuff. And so Councilor Phillips, I see, is on here as well, and I look forward, and call me anytime you have questions on things that come up. I'll still come down and you'll hear from me when there's something that has, you know, a touchstone in the past. I'll keep my eyes on what you guys are doing. And yeah, 20 years, it's like, and it's gone by in a flash. But thank you for the humbling comments. You know, I'm not really good at having people recognize me, and because I do it for, you know, my love of my city and my community members as well. And so, yeah, I won't be able to stay in the basement and finally get it cleaned out after 20 years for very long. And look forward to, you know, a new chapter and interacting in new and different ways with my community as well. So again, thank you for all the kind words.
We'll look forward to your next incarnation where you decide to light in the community, and really appreciate it. I want to kind of close, if there are no more comments, if anyone has any, let me know. I'd like to kind of close this off with just a couple of observations. One of the things I hope people watching this, I know for all of us, it's a real reality. It's been mentioned over and over by counselors, is just the kind of lack of ideological conflict that is so often ascribed to political organizations trying to move forward on a whole range of issues. And that we can share both a respect and an appreciation for different political opinions, for different styles, for different approaches to the kinds of problems and issues that our community, and really the larger community that we all live in, face, that we can do service on a political organization with a real sense of collegiality, I think is one of the really great aspects of this council. And I've served on councils where it's not quite so pleasant, and people with different ideological opinions get treated quite differently. And I think it's been really a great opportunity for all of us to just for a moment stop, celebrate each other, celebrate these great friends, Kara Kaiser, Matt Ossick, and Brad Nanke, who we've all had a chance to work with, and what they brought to this. And to remind people that we're your neighbors, and we're not paid. We're not here, for the power. All the power is in the city manager's position. So if you have a concern, call him, write him. But we really try very, very hard. And I think we've had a chance to celebrate it today, to have informed discussion at our council meetings and during those periods that we are able to talk to each other, and that we can bring those diverse opinions, the kind of pragmatism you expect from a city, to the table at every council meeting, and to conduct business that you all as citizens or staff or new and old members of the city council can be proud of. And I hope each of you who are kind of retiring from us will keep us on that path and will keep in touch with us. One of the things I appreciate on a regular basis are the calls I get from former councilors and mayors describing for me the better way to go. And it often is. And I know that we all appreciate that kind of sharing. So I know you won't be gone. Well, Kara will be in Silverton. I just expect great things now from Silverton. Matt, I look forward to hearing from you anytime. I know all of us do. And Brad, I can't imagine we won't hear from you. I kind of think Peter will start messing with 12th Street again just to drag you back in. So again, thank you very much. And to all of you, have a great day, and we'll all meet again Monday. So thank you very much.
Thanks. And I will be giving you an email, Peter, because I have another issue with parking down the